You've been programmed to hate your neighbor, not by accident, by design. Every outrage you feel, every political enemy you despise, every moment you spend arguing online about left versus right, someone is profiting from your anger. And here's what they don't want you to realize. The moment you stop fighting each other, you start looking at them. That's the game. That's why your feed is full of rage bait. That's why every election feels like the end of the world. Division is profitable. United citizens ask uncomfortable questions. Divided citizens are too busy screaming at each other to notice who's picking their pockets. Today, we're going to expose the playbook they've been running on you for decades. The media, the politicians, the algorithms, all working together to keep you angry, afraid, and most importantly, distracted. The profit model. Here's a question that should disturb you. What do cable news networks actually sell? You might think they sell news. They don't. They sell your attention to advertisers, and nothing captures attention like outrage. A calm, nuanced discussion about policy gets you to change the channel, but show someone who represents the other side saying something inflammatory. Engagement. Your heart rate goes up, your pupils dilate, you keep watching. Studies show that content triggering moral outrage gets shared significantly more than neutral content. The algorithm learned this. The networks learned this, so they optimized for it. In 1980, CNN pioneered 24-hour news, but there isn't enough news to fill 24 hours. So what do you fill it with? Opinion, analysis, panels of people arguing. Quote effect if it bleeds. It leads quote effect became the industry mantra. But they updated it for the modern era. If it enrages, it engages. Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, different audiences, same business model. Keep you angry, keep you watching, keep those advertising dollars flowing. But this is just the media's cut. The politicians have their own reasons to keep you divided. Political theater. Politicians discovered something powerful. You don't need to deliver results if you can deliver enemies. Think about it. What's easier, actually solving healthcare or blaming the other party for blocking healthcare? What's more effective, fixing the economy or convincing you that your problems are caused by immigrants or billionaires or whoever the approved target is this election cycle? Enemies distract from failure. Here's the pattern that repeats across history. When those in power fail to deliver, they need a scapegoat. Rome blamed the Christians. Medieval Europe blamed the Jews. Modern politicians blame the other party. The technique is ancient. The execution is just more sophisticated now. Watch any political ad. They rarely tell you what the candidate will actually do. They tell you how dangerous the opponent is. Fear is the product. Your vote isn't about hope anymore. It's about stopping the monster on the other side. And both sides run this same play because it works. If you're starting to see the pattern here, hit like and subscribe to keep exposing what they hide, because what comes next shows you exactly how they coordinate this. The algorithm trap. Social media didn't create division, but it weaponized it at scale. Facebook's own internal research, leaked in 2021, showed their algorithm actively promoted divisive content because it generated more engagement. They knew. They did it anyway. Anger plus platform equals profit. Here's how it works. The algorithm shows you content that gets a reaction. You engage with something that outrages you. The algorithm notes this. It shows you more content like that. Your feed becomes a funnel of outrage, custom tailored to your specific triggers. But here's the darker part. You're not just seeing content that makes you angry. You're being shown the worst representatives of the other side. The algorithm finds the most extreme voices and amplifies them. A reasonable conservative and a reasonable liberal might agree on 80% of issues, but you'll never see that conversation. You'll see the screaming match, because that's what keeps you scrolling. Former Facebook executive Chamath Palihapitiya admitted it publicly. As he said, quote effect, "We have created tools that are ripping apart the social fabric." Quote effect, he wasn't exaggerating. And the platforms still haven't fundamentally changed. Manufactured consent. Noam Chomsky and Edward Herman wrote a book in 1988 that explains everything happening today. It's called Manufacturing Consent. Their thesis was simple but devastating. Media doesn't just report reality. It shapes what you're allowed to think about. The boundaries of acceptable debate are set before you even enter the conversation. Notice how certain questions are never asked on mainstream news. Why does America have 800 military bases in 70 countries? Why do both parties always fund the military-industrial complex regardless of who's in power? Why do bank bailouts pass with bipartisan support while infrastructure bills take decades? These questions don't fit the left-right narrative, so they don't get airtime. Instead, you get culture war issues, abortion, guns, immigration, issues designed to trigger maximum emotional response, while the economic policies that affect your actual life sail through with zero debate. Culture war hides class war. They keep you fighting about bathrooms while they pick your pocket. And the scariest part, most people in media don't even realize they're doing it. The system selects for voices that don't challenge power. United we threaten. Here's what terrifies the powerful: agreement. When left and right find common ground, the system panics. Remember Occupy Wall Street, a movement that challenged the financial elite. It had support from across the political spectrum. Regular conservatives were angry about bank bailouts too. What happened? The media immediately reframed it as a left-wing movement. Identity politics were injected. The coalition shattered. Same pattern with the Tea Party. Started as genuine outrage about government spending and corporate bailouts. Had potential for cross-partisan appeal. Got absorbed, rebranded, and defanged. Notice how any movement that threatens the economic establishment gets either co-opted or destroyed through division. Quote effect: if you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Quote effect: Lyndon Johnson said that in the 1960s. The technique hasn't changed, just the categories. Now it's red versus blue, urban versus rural, woke versus traditional. Any division will do, as long as you're not looking up. Because the moment working-class people of all political stripes realize they have more in common with each other than with the donor class, that's when real change becomes possible. The donor class. Follow the money. It always tells the truth. In American politics, elections cost billions. Where does that money come from? The same corporations donate to both parties. The same billionaires fund candidates on both sides. Different jerseys, same owners. When a Democrat wins, Goldman Sachs has people in the Treasury. When a Republican wins, Goldman Sachs has people in the Treasury. Different rhetoric. Same policies that matter to the donor class. Defense spending goes up. Trade deals benefit multinational corporations. Bank regulations get weakened. Tax loopholes remain open. The fighting you see on television is theater. The real agreements happen in rooms you'll never see. Public theater, private deals. Princeton study from 2014 analyzed nearly 2,000 policy decisions. They found that public opinion had essentially zero statistical impact on policy outcomes. What mattered? Economic elite preferences and organized interest groups. As the researchers concluded, quote effect, the preferences of the average American appear to have only a minuscule, near zero, statistically non-significant impact upon public policy. Quote effect, you have the illusion of choice. The donor class has the reality of power, and they need you to keep fighting each other so you never notice. Rage is addiction. Here's the uncomfortable truth about your own brain. Outrage feels good. When you see something that confirms your worldview, that proves the other side is evil, your brain releases dopamine, the same chemical released by gambling, by drugs, by sugar. Addicted, you're not just being manipulated. You're being turned into an addict, and your dealer is your smartphone. Studies show that political content activates the same neural pathways as substance addiction. You get a hit of righteous anger. You feel morally superior. You belong to a tribe fighting against evil. It's intoxicating. And like any addiction, you need bigger doses, more extreme content, more outrageous enemies. Your tolerance builds until only the most extreme content registers. This is why political discourse has become so unhinged. It's not that people are dumber. It's that they are in withdrawal and need their fix. The media and politicians understand this. They're not just dividing you. Quote effect, They're turning your tribal instincts into a product they can sell quote effect, and most people don't even realize they're hooked. They think their rage is righteous. They think the other side really is that dangerous. That's how good the manipulation has become. Identity fortress. Political identity has replaced religious identity for many people, and that's by design. When your politics becomes your identity, you can't change your mind without losing yourself. Think about how people describe themselves now. Not by their job, their family, their hobbies, by their political tribe. Politics became religion. This serves the powerful perfectly. Because when your identity is wrapped up in your political team, any criticism of that team feels like a personal attack. Any facts that contradict your side's narrative threaten your sense of self. So you reject them automatically. You don't evaluate evidence. You defend your tribe. This is why people can look at the same facts and reach opposite conclusions. They're not processing information. They're protecting identity, and the system reinforces this constantly. You're told the other side doesn't just have different policies, they have different values. They're not just wrong, they are evil. Once you believe that, you'll never find common ground. You can't negotiate with evil. You can only fight it, which is exactly what they want you to believe. The real enemy. So who benefits from all this division? Not the average conservative, not the average liberal. The winners are those who profit from the chaos while remaining above the fight. Defense contractors who sell weapons regardless of which party is in power. Pharmaceutical companies whose lobbying succeeds under both administrations. Tech giants who face no real regulation from either side. Banks that get bailed out by Democrats and Republicans alike. These aren't partisan issues. They're power issues. And power doesn't care about your political identity. It cares about maintaining control. The left-right divide is the horizontal axis they want you focused on. But the real axis is vertical. It's not about left versus right. It's about up versus down. Those with power versus those without. And as long as those without power are fighting each other, those with power sleep soundly. Quote effect, the smart way to keep people passive and obedient is to strictly limit the spectrum of acceptable opinion, but allow very lively debate within that spectrum. Quote effect, Chomsky saw it clearly. The debate is allowed. The boundaries are controlled, and you're trapped inside, thinking you're free, breaking free. So what do you do with this knowledge? First, recognize the manipulation. When you feel that surge of outrage, pause, ask yourself, who benefits from me feeling this way? Is this information designed to inform me or to inflame me? The moment you recognize the game, you stop being a piece on the board. Second, seek out people you disagree with, not to fight them, but to understand them. You'll find that most people, regardless of political label, want the same things. Safety for their families, economic opportunity, a future for their children. The disagreements are about methods, not goals. Common ground exists, find it. Third, follow the money. Whenever a politician makes a passionate speech, look at their donor list. Whenever a media outlet pushes a narrative, look at who owns them. The truth is usually in the financial statements, not the headlines. Finally, remember, they need you divided. United citizens ask questions. United citizens demand accountability. United citizens are ungovernable. Quote effect. When we stop fighting each other, we start fighting for each other. Quote effect, that's what they fear. That's what they prevent. And that's exactly why they need you to hate the other side. Division is a product, and you've been the customer. The media sells your attention. The politicians sell your fear. The algorithms sell your outrage. And all of them benefit when you hate your neighbor instead of questioning your rulers. Divided we fall, united we rise. The person you've been taught to despise across the political aisle, they're not your enemy. They're your fellow citizen being manipulated by the same forces, fed the same outrage, trapped in the same game. The real question isn't whether you're left or right. It's whether you're awake or asleep. Awake. If you made it this far, comment undivided to prove you see through the game now. Every government lies. Every media outlet serves someone. The question is, who are you really fighting for? Yourself and your community, or the donor class that needs you distracted? The truth is out there. You just have to stop fighting each other long enough to see it. Subscribe if you're done playing their game.